This episode of the Managing Madrid podcast is brought to you by Blossom Hotel in Houston. Discover Houston. Blossom Hotel offers guests an ideal starting point to explore and enjoy the best of the city, including noteworthy business and leisure centers spanning from the NRG Park and the Texas Medical Center to downtown, Montrose, and the Heights. From dining and nightlife to shopping and entertainment, plus culture and sports, there are a myriad of world-class offerings to discover in the Gulf Coast metropolis. Blossom Hotel Houston is actually our sponsor for our podcast in Houston. They are hosting the event itself. So on July 30th, and you can book your spot in the show notes. And actually, if you do it in the next few days before July 1st, you save about 20 bucks. So book your spot to our show in Houston. It's, I think, the day before or day after the preseason game there. It's on July 30th either way. So go book your spot. We also have details for our Dallas podcast confirmed. And Matt Wiltsey, who is on the show with me tonight, he did the great honor of finalizing the venue in Dallas. So we're going to see Tapas. The Maridistas in Dallas, I think, will know that bar pretty well. And the ones that we've heard back from, we're really happy that was the venue choice. So that's happening as well. Go book your spot in the show notes to Dallas and Houston. We are announcing LA soon. Okay. Today's podcast is a two-parter. Part two coming up later. Ruben and Heridium are going to break down an absolutely devastating and heartbreaking Castilla elimination from contention to Segunda. They were in it until the death, and they were eliminated in extra time. It was heartbreaking, gut-wrenching, and really sad. So stick around for part two for that post-mortem podcast. Coming up in part one, right now, happening right now, Matt Wiltsey and I are going to do a new segment. So we were kind of thinking about doing a gimmick like this for a long time now, but there was just never an opportunity to do it. There was too much news. Covering this team is an absolute gong show. Every day you wake up, there's something new. Then you had this Mbappe thing, so that took up a lot of our time. So we never got a chance to do it. By the way, some people have been asking, how come Managing Madrid are so quiet about Mbappe? Oh, we have not been quiet. On Friday, back to back, two podcasts about Mbappe over on patreon.com/managing Madrid. Our patrons were absolutely spoiled, and we love spoiling our patrons. We love those guys. So if you wanted access to all of our Mbappe thoughts, two podcasts on Friday, it's over on patreon.com/managing Madrid. The gimmick today is we want to go back and redo every Real Madrid summer, going as far back to 2000, which means with the power of hindsight, we are gifted with hindsight now. What would we change every summer? Which transfer would we stop? Which transfer would we activate? And how would we reschedule or just kind of redo and reshuffle the roster? And we're going to do it backwards. We're not going to all do it tonight. We're probably going to go back about 5 years tonight. But that's the plan. So long overdue. I think we're like 30 minutes into the podcast now. I haven't introduced Matt formally yet. So Matt, welcome to the show, man. How are you? How did you digest that brutal Castilla game?
Hey, Kian. Yeah, that was a tough one. I mean, particularly just to go up, take the lead, how many times? Twice, technically three times, I guess, and then have a penalty not called in the last minute, the very last, a blatant clear penalty not called in the very last minute. I mean, heartbreaking. And I was so confused when the final whistle blew because I thought it was going to penalties, and I was like, "What's going on? Why are they celebrating? Why are they storming the pitch?" Um, but yeah, just totally heartbreaking.
So I was in the camp that I knew that that was not going to be enough, that they had to win an extra time. A draw was not going to be enough. It was the same. It was the same thing with Barca too. Like with Barca, we had the advantage. If
Yeah.
it was tied at the end of that extra time, we would have gone ahead. And I just wonder, like, with the knowledge, was it more heartbreaking or more devastating? Because at some point, on some level, I was like prepared that okay, this is not going to happen because we need to win. What was it like when you saw that happen? Were you like, do you think you were more devastated?
I think so. I think
Mm,
so. Because I felt like I thought Castilla would win it on PKs just
mm,
because I thought of guys like Ariba. Like I just felt
yeah.
like these kids have been used to being the go-to guys growing up and maybe had done penalty kicks most of their life. And so I don't know. I thought they may be able to handle the responsibility better.
The penalty felt like a really big sucker punch because it's a clear penalty. To me, it's not just a penalty, it's a red card because it's an intentional tackle to literally stop a team from going to Segunda. It's a clear goal scoring opportunity. He's like, nope, you're not going to Segunda, foul, so you don't score. That's not a penalty, not just a penalty, that's a red card too. So it was devastating to go out that way. But I do want to say that if you take it back, I think Castilla shot themselves in the foot. Like it should not have even gotten to that point. They were
Yeah.
up by 2 goals. They were flying. They were pretty much dominating that first half. They concede that goal at the end of the first half. And then in the second half, just a lot of defensive mistakes, defensive miscues. I also just was really disappointed with Raul. Like Castilla were so gassed. Over beyond the tactical side of things, Castilla were so gassed. And like you could just tell they needed some fresh legs. I don't understand why Iker Bravo, what he has done to deserve being outcast like that, especially after his goal against Barca. And I also was just like horrified every time Marvel had the ball, or like Vinicius would just overcomplicate things. Vinicius Tobias with the ball often. I think there was some heroic moments from Arribas, Mario Martin, Pablo Ramon. Luis Lopez was insane in nets. Like he had some incredible saves, but yeah, it should not even gotten to that point, and that's what broke my heart because like we got so far this time, and like this was the time we would finally get to Segunda. I don't see it
Yeah.
happening after this.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's interesting that you point to Raul because I feel like a lot of the discourse I see is just negativity on Raul.
Hmm.
And I don't know, like, I'm not saying this is what you believe, but I just don't know that, like, I kind of lean the other way. I'm like amazed that he's gotten Castilla's biggest thing is that they've never been able to compete consistently at this level. Like, because you're playing against like grown men who have been professionals who are like it's just a different level to what they've been playing in the youth in the youth categories. And what Castilla's always struggled with is just competing and being able to like get to this point in the season. And the fact that he's gotten the team to do that, I think is a huge and like literally they should have won this game. And so for like that I think everybody would be singing Raul's praises if they ultimately got to Segunda. And all it was a penalty kick in the last minute away. And so I just feel like I don't know. I've been surprised by like how negative people are. I don't watch them week in and week out, so I'll say that. And maybe it's the people that do that are frustrated with him. I've watched enough games though of Castilla this season, like probably over 10, where I feel like they're really well organized. He's gotten the best out of the team. I like the way they press. And number one thing is they compete. They compete, and they've been consistent. And so I think that's like the biggest difference versus Castilla teams of seasons past.
I like this. I like that you're going against the grain on this one. Like it should be noted that he actually is he's a better Castilla coach than Zidane was.
Yeah.
And that's what like gives me hope about like his I don't think he's ready to coach the first team, but Zidane improved at the senior team level. And that, there is that, hopefully that would happen. But like, the pick, it's pretty clear now who the pick would be. But like year or two ago, there was a question about Xabi Alonso or Raul. Like right now, it's clear that Xabi Alonso is like just way more up for this task, I think, at this level. But Raul, I think, needs to improve some things. But anyway, Castilla Corner are going to break that down
Yeah.
in part two. There was a Zidane's interview in Telefoot today. I just wanted to I thought there was one quote that he said that piqued my interest. I mean, every time Zidane says something, I'll listen because it's very rare that he talks. Um, but there was one quote in particular that I actually thought of you, and he was talking about how much football has changed. Did you see that quote?
No.
Uh, let me see if I can bring it up. I don't even know. I think I closed the tab. So I'll paraphrase while I try to find it again. But he was talking about how football has changed over the past, like basically since he stopped playing. And he was questioning whether he himself as a player um, could have kept up with the physicality of today's game, and that it's changed quite a bit from a physical standpoint. That like back when he was playing, there wasn't a need for you to be here. It is exact quote, bailed out. Quote, football today, physically, it's changed a lot. In my time, you can be less well physically, and that was not a big deal because you could get out of it with your technique. Today, physically, it might have played some tricks on me. So I thought of you because we have talked about the evolution of sports science and stuff. Um, it's kind of just like an interesting thought exercise, like what would happen to Zidane if you just airdropped him in today's game. I always say that I think you have to give the benefit of the doubt to the older players. First of all, because you can never compare eras because there's a different sports science and different level of understanding of tactic. Like right now, the coaching is better, the tactics are better, players are physically taken care of more. Like something that circulated, I think today or yesterday, I'm losing track of time, but Van Basten's iconic volley against USSR where he gets it across from the acute angle and he scores. And I reflected on his career because he had major injuries. And if he was able to prolong his career playing in today's game with the science we have available now, he's really one of the greatest strikers we've had. Like just, but he was never able to sustain it because of the injuries. And I wonder, like, if you put Zidane today, I think he's even better because he's working with Pintus. He's on a training regime, like he's probably better. So I think like he's obviously humble. He's saying, I don't know if I could, I don't know what would happen to me, but I just wanted to get your thoughts on that. Thought it was interesting.
Yeah, I mean, Zidane strikes me as a guy that would kind of he would implement all those things, like
Yeah,
take advantage of all the sports science to make sure he was at his best. So I think he would catch up pretty quickly. And I mean, anybody who's read about his time in Italy, I mean, what he took from Italy was the grueling physical sessions that they did. And he learned there that like fitness is such a requirement at the top level. And that was one of the first things he implemented when he became a Real Madrid coach and did kind of that mini preseason halfway through in January when he took over. So, I think he would have been one to quickly implement all of this, and maybe he's just being a little bit humble there.
yeah. He had some other quotes too. Talked about Benzema, Mbappe, other things. It's the quotes are aggregated on managingmadrid.com from the Telefoot interview. You can go read it. Also on managingmadrid.com, lots of news and a couple feature articles for you to enjoy. All right, Matt, let's talk about redoing Real Madrid summers. We're gonna go. I think it makes sense to start in 2022. We can't start now because the summer's not over. We don't know. Like we'll do this summer next year. Summer of 2002, Matt. Here are the happenings. Aurelion Tchouameni arrives for 80 million. Antonio Rudiger arrives on a free. Um, Odriozola returns from Fiorentina, and then Casemiro leaves to Manchester United. Borja Mayoral is sold to Getafe. Kubo goes to Real Sociedad with we retain rights to him. Miguel Gutierrez to Girona. Victor Chus, Cadiz. Luka Jovic goes to Fiorentina. Isco goes to Sevilla. Marcelo goes to Olympiacos. Gareth Bale goes to LAFC. A lot of departures that summer. Blanco to Alaves. Reinier goes to Girona. Joins Miguel Gutierrez. Juan Milatasa, promising Castilla striker, goes to Getafe. And his career has been brutal since then. So, what is it that what's at the top of your agenda to redo in this summer?
Um, I think I'm good with pretty much all of the outgoings except for one. Um, and I would probably change some of the incoming. So I'd obviously keep the Chouameni signing. I don't know that I'd sign Rudiger on a free, especially given the salary we gave him. I think I'd probably pass on the Rudiger. signing. I think Nacho's more didn't deserve, like, I think he's more than good enough. I think Nacho played better than Rudiger for pretty much most of the games he played at center back this season, probably barring the City game that Rudiger played against Holland. Um, and I would have maybe allocated those funds towards a different, maybe younger center back. Like maybe you pick up. I know the guy. I have never seen him play, but I know he's highly rated. The Portuguese defender from Benfica, Antonio Silva. Maybe you pick up a guy like him, like kind of continue with the youth policy, and then that way, um, Nacho still retains his role, but you've brought in this another younger center back to compete and eventually be the partner to Militao potentially. So maybe that's something I would have done. I would not have brought back Odriozola. I think we're both in agreement on that. Um, but you know, who I would have kept from that group is Kubo. I would have kept Kubo. I think he could have been a useful tool, useful player for us, especially kind of a spark off the bench. Um, and then it's been kind of the age-old issue for us for back-to-back seasons now. I mean, this season, last season, the season prior, the fullbacks and backup striker position would be my priority. So I think I would have brought Fran Garcia back this summer, or whatever, that last summer. Um, and then in terms of fullbacks, right back and striker, man, I would splash big cash on Reece James. My only concern is his injury record. And I just think he's very loyal to Chelsea. That's the club he grew up in. It's like it's a Carvajal case for Chelsea, and so I don't know that he'll ever leave them. But man, I think you'd have to I'd be willing to splash some major cash on a right back, which I know is unconventional for Real Madrid and not something they normally do, but I just think it's been such a big hole for us, that I would be willing to really put the funds where they matter there. Um, and then for a backup striker, man, it's tough. Given what we know about Firmino, like he's a like for like Benzema guy. He would have been with 1 year left on his contract, so maybe ready for a new challenge. Get him on the cheap, and he's more of a similar player to Benzema, and you sign him on a 2 year deal or something, and I think that could work.
Just to remind the listeners, we're doing this with hindsight, right? So the exercise is not to go back and like put ourselves in the moment because it's hard to do that. We're doing this with knowing what has happened in the year after all of these activities have happened. So I want to go back to a few points you made. We are 1,000,000% agreement on Odriozola. That guy, I don't understand. I still don't get it. Like, little things like that, people don't care about much, obviously, because it's Odriozola. Like, no one, it's not a big name, but it's just a minor detail of like what was the thought process behind that from everybody. Fiorentina were happy. He was happy. And why did we bring him back? We could have just got rid of his contract and it was a win-win-win for all three parties. I don't understand what was going through all of our minds on that one. It's very similar to Reinier Jesus. Remember, like he went to Dortmund 1 year, didn't play, and everyone thought it was a brilliant idea to run it back. It makes no sense. Odriozola should not have been brought back from Fiorentina at all. Tchouaméni, yes. I'm still in favor of the Rudiger free signing. Despite the salary or concerns or age or whatever, I think his experience still was really evident in that first leg against Holland. I also think he's going to improve next season. That's my hunch, and it was low risk either way. It was a market opportunity. I thought about the idea of bringing back Fran Garcia last summer and Kubo last summer too. I think ultimately why I will disagree with you on bringing those two back last summer. I don't think they would have become the players they are now had they have been in our squad this summer is my feeling. Fran Garcia played a lot with Rayo Vallecano, and I think that was important for him. And Kubo played a lot with Real Sociedad, and I think that was important for him. And with Kubo's, like with Fran Garcia, he granted he would have played quite a bit with us because of Mendy. So, but I do wonder about Kubo specifically because we still have
Oh, I
Asensio.
forgot. Yeah, I would have said I would have sold Asensio. I forgot to say that.
Okay, I think that makes it easier. Um, I still like. I don't you feel that Kubo at Real Sociedad was just perfect this year?
Oh yeah, I love it. I don't want him. Honestly, it's the perfect match. Like he shouldn't leave for a very long time.
Yeah. Um, but you wouldn't bring him back this summer, you know?
I would give him at least another year at Real Sociedad.
Um, I have a crazy one. This is granted, it's not, I don't think, a realistic idea, but it's an idea. And it only comes with knowing what we know now. It would have been impossible to do last summer. If you could have sold Benzema last summer and signed Haaland last summer,
Mm.
because ultimately the fee for Haaland was not that the transfer fee itself was like what, only 60 million, wasn't it?
Well, the problem with Holland was he made his decision so early. Like
Yeah.
even he made it before Mbappe made his decision, and maybe he would have made a different decision had he known Mbappe wasn't coming to Real Madrid.
But also, but how much would his decision have changed if Benzema wasn't in the roster?
Yeah.
But again, like to sell Benzema is really, really just a
After that
complicated
season
thing.
too.
Yeah, no,
After
like
he
that's the
just
thing.
had the season he
And
had.
that's why it's not realistic because Benzema last season was on another planet, like good,
Yeah.
like he was incredible. And so like it would be it's just that again, this exercise is only with hindsight. With hindsight, you would he has so much value last summer. And if you knew that he was going to go through all the injuries, if you knew he was going to dip a little bit, you know, maybe the Saudi offer comes 1 year sooner because Cristiano Ronaldo got it last summer. So, or I guess Cristiano Ronaldo was mid-season; it wasn't the summer. But yeah. Um, another thing, here are the right backs that were sold that summer. I'll actually only mention so here. Well, here they are: Malo Gusto, 30 million to Chelsea. Although was he summer or I think maybe he was
Winter. Yeah, he was
winter.
winter.
Okay. Pedro Porro. Uh, the one that stood out was Mazraoui to Bayern on a free. That seemed like a good market opportunity to pick up. I think
Yeah.
I would have done that. Um,
You'd have to offload Lucas Vasquez though.
or you could have just not brought back Odriozola.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh, that seems like would have been simple, good business that would have cost you nothing, right? Not bring back Odriozola and get Mazraoui for free.
Yeah.
Makes sense. Why didn't we even think of that?
Is
Would
he really
you?
that good though? Like, is he Real Madrid level?
I like
Is he
Mazraoui.
that much of a better
I-
player than Carvajal or Lucas?
I'm not saying he's Cafu, but I'm saying that he's a real right back who
Yeah.
can help. Um, he's a good player still. I like him. This question is, what would you have? I think we talked about it during the time, but mid-season Cancelo to Bayern, would you have done that?
Oh yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Would we understand, right, that I don't think he would have continued beyond this season if he had come. I think it would have just been like a 5 4 month rental, whatever it was.
You think?
I think so because I think his salary is too much.
Yeah.
Crazy. Well, and
Yeah.
not only that, you actually have to pay a
And the
transfer
transfer
fee.
fee.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you have to actually buy him at that point. And I don't know, it was kind of a red flag for me that both Bayern and City didn't want him at all. Like they wasn't like what was
Well,
wrong?
I
What's going
mean,
on?
this is kind of a diverging discussion, but I think it's really, really interesting. And it's almost the way Raul plays with his defenders is how Pep Guardiola, one of the major tactical tweaks he made this winter, and he's openly spoke about it, is he wants defenders that win duels. Defenders that at the highest level of the Champions League, you're defending against Vinicius, against Salah, against these world-class wingers. He wants defenders that can win duels. And so I find that very, very interesting because we've seen so much of the last decade of like fullbacks evolving into these just like what they can produce in the final third, their on ball value, overlaps, underlaps, and what Pep prioritized this winter and what really saw his team be more successful was playing with four center backs and four players who are first and foremost defenders and can win duels. I think that's really interesting, and that's why Cancelo didn't work out, and it's kind of why I don't think he was as successful at Bayern either. So he's perfect for like what football has been over the last decade. But if we're moving towards these defenders that have to win duels, then yeah, he doesn't fit that model.
So now we're going back to the 2021-2022 season. Arrivals Eduardo Camavinga, 31 million. David Alaba, signed from Bayern on a free. And we got Varane going to Manchester United. That was definitely kind of the surprise of the summer. Martin Odegaard going to Arsenal. Brahim Diaz goes out on loan to AC Milan. Sergio Ramos gets sold to PSG. Kubo goes to Mallorca on loan. Odriozola goes to Fiorentina on loan. Oh, Ceballos also returns from Arsenal.
Okay.
Yeah.
Um, I would. All right, so I would obviously, obviously do the Camavinga deal.
Yeah.
Obviously do the Alaba deal. I'm totally fine with Victor Chus going off to Cadiz. Odriozola going to Fiorentina. Kubo going out on loan. Um, I like with hindsight now, I'm good with Varane going to Manchester United.
Yeah.
I'm good with an additional year for Brahim at Milan. The two I'm having a hard time with is Odegaard.
Mm-hmm.
We know how near and dear he is to our hearts, and I know he divides the fan base, but I would keep him. I love him as a player. I would keep him. And then Ramos, I mean, you obviously bring in Alaba. He forms a great partnership with Militao. It's so hard to say that the Ramos move was the right move, but I think it is, especially that year in particular, he barely played for PSG. Obviously, he had a good year this past year, but that first year he barely played. So, I think it was the right move. So Odegaard's the only one I'm keeping. Um, in terms of arrivals, I mean, it's the same thing. It's been the same thing summer after summer. We need fullbacks
Yeah,
and
there's a theme.
backup striker.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a theme. The Odegaard one is a little bit complicated to me because he didn't seem to be that keen on competing with Modric and Kroos, and you can't really force him to stay.
Yeah.
But what I would have done, and I think I also think this was kind of, I don't know what the word is, but I was going to say instigated, but that's not the right word. This goes back to Zinedine Zidane and not really giving Odegaard that much playing time. And what I would have done, granted, I'm far, far, far less intelligent than Zidane. I would have stuck Odegaard on the right wing, and
Yeah.
because I wouldn't have played him in the center midfielder because that Odegaard was playing that kind of pseudo, non-traditional right winger role at Sociedad, but he could cut in. And again, he wasn't like a line breaking dribbling winger, but he was someone like more of a Bernardo Silva who could play on the right wing, cut in, play some great passes into the box in that position. His pressing was great. I think he would have been awesome to keep around. That one
Yeah.
definitely hurt me a little bit, man.
I
Um,
think I think at the end of the day with Odegaard, it you look at everything that happened and it just wasn't meant to be. Like it just the knee injury, he like even when he did play that half season with us with Zidane when Zidane brought him back early, he was still recovering from that knee injury. He didn't quite look like himself. He had moments, but he was never quite himself. And then obviously it at first at Arsenal, that half loan season, he wasn't like as incredible as he's been now, but he finally I think he got over the injury. He got his fitness, his form, his confidence, obviously got the captain's man, like played in his preferred role, played in a team that played to his strengths. Like all that came together and you see how incredible of a player he is. And we knew that. We knew that having watched him all those years on loan, but it just never the timelines never worked. His injuries, whatever it may have been, fitness, rhythm, all just never synced up while he was here at Madrid. It just wasn't
yeah.
meant to be.
Um, is there anyone that, like on the market that summer that you would have looked at signing?
So, I mean, the right wing, that's the one area we haven't talked about, is that's the other kind of big one that's been pinpointed by fans for a long time and for many summers. I'm trying to think of who may have been on the market at that time. Um, that really could have been useful. Even now, knowing how they explode. I mean, that's the one caveat we have doing this is the hindsight factor. So, is there anyone? I mean, that position's been so thin. Bernardo Silva, I guess he's wanted to leave City for a while. Would you have brought him in?
Yeah, I just never know like how realistic that someone like him actually is.
Yeah,
Because you're dealing with City and you're dealing with a player who likes being there. I think, there are reports that come out here and there that, he would be open to leaving, but it never materializes.
yeah.
Uh, there's like the only like right winger who was actually good you know, that transferred that summer was Messi.
Hmm.
Um, there wasn't many other. I mean, that doesn't mean just that there were none that were attainable because maybe there are players who stayed put at their clubs who just. But there was not many. Um, I don't think realistic ones that summer. When was Gnabry? Oh, Gnabry was a free agent last summer. He just got renewed, right? That's what it was. Yeah,
Yeah,
I was advocating for him last summer, but
yeah,
uh,
yeah.
uh, yeah. For this summer, there's not a whole lot I would do differently. Maybe I would like pay more for Camavinga. Maybe like just out of guilt. 31 was too cheap. 31 million. Definitely would do the David Alaba signing 10 times out of 10.
Yeah,
That was a home run.
yeah.
Uh,
He became an instant fan favorite.
yeah. All right, let's go backwards to the 2020-2021 season. I think the plan is to go back 5 seasons tonight. So let's do that. All right, this is a big one. Uh,
Oh, this is a big one. I'm looking at it.
let's start with departures. Achraf Hakimi goes to Inter. Sergio Reguilon goes to Tottenham. Oscar Rodriguez goes to Sevilla. Javi Sanchez goes to Valladolid. Borja Mayoral goes to Roma on loan. And then you get Martin Odegaard on loan to Arsenal. Some minor ones, Kubo to Villarreal on loan, and then mid-season to Getafe. That was an entirely disastrous year. Luka Jovic on loan to Frankfurt. Brahim Diaz on loan to AC Milan. James Rodriguez, still somehow a Real Madrid player at that point, is sold to Everton. I think it just basically his contract ran out and he went to Everton. Uh, Bale went to Tottenham on loan. Renier went to Dortmund on loan. Jesus Vallejo on loan to Granada. Alfonso Areola's loan stint with us ends. In case you forgot, he played for us. Um, and guess who the arrivals are? There are zero arrivals, basically. I mean, they're just movements of like players returning from loan and going back out on loan, but there is no actual signings. Just an exodus of players and loans.
Yeah. So I mean, the obvious one is Ashraf Hakimi. Do you do that deal again? I don't. I think you keep him and you he's one of in such a thin position where earlier I was talking about spending big money on Reece James, who I do actually if the choice was between Reece James and Ashraf Hakimi, I'd choose Reece James. Um, but given that this is homegrown academy kid you didn't have to pay anything for, who just developed 2 seasons at Dortmund, I would have kept him. The 43 million looks like small change in hindsight. And then all the other departures I'm good with. I actually have one that's maybe kind of a with hindsight I would have done differently is Rainier. I would have just kept him with Castilla and see
Mm,
what he got. And rather than just the 3 games he had with Castilla where he actually played really well, would have just kept him there and then seen what he had playing for the reserves.
yeah.
Um, and then in additional departure, it would have been 1 season after Eden Hazard's arrival. I would have sold him. Would have
Sold
sold
who, sorry?
Hazard. Hazard.
Oh, Hazard.
Yep.
Yeah, it's a good one. I didn't think of
And
that.
probably would have sold Jovic. As much as it hurts me to say that, but
Mm-hmm.
knowing the minutes he would get and the contribution he would bring, just wouldn't make sense to keep him. So cut your losses on those 2 big signings from the season prior, um, and then in terms of arrivals, obviously we had no one. This was the COVID year, so we didn't bring a single player in. Um, I'm
Could you have
trying to,
sold Carvajal instead of Ashraf that summer when his value was a little bit higher?
yeah, with hindsight,
Because there was a
that's
whole
tough.
debate at that time, Matt, of like, oh,
Yeah,
we can't bring Ashraf back because the reality is we have Carvajal, and like you can't be Carvajal's backup and stuff. It's going to be hard, and it's a pandemic. We need to raise some money. In hindsight, I think now I don't even know if
well, let
that
me.
necessarily smart because Carvajal was huge in that Champions League run.
Yeah, that's what I was literally just about to say. So, in hind, would you give up that 1 season
No, I
in
wouldn't.
particular, that Liverpool game? He was like man of the match, and then the Chelsea game, he had to play center back and played lights out. Like, would you give that up to have Ashraf? I wouldn't either. I wouldn't.
Yeah,
And
I wouldn't.
and and it, yeah, and I do think there is something like, man, we talk about it. You have to be ruthless, especially at Real Madrid, and like you have to cut, but like I feel like it's especially hard to do that to guys like Carvajal and Nacho and like who came literally spent their life at Madrid and would die for the club and like I know it's tough. It's tough because then we have these matches where he's just looks like a walking corpse and it's tough to separate the two. But yeah, I don't think I would trade those moments for 5 years of Ashraf.
Yeah, that's I think reasonable. The I just wanted to go back to Rainier. Definitely, I would have rather have kept him in Castilla. Alternatively, if you don't want to keep him in Castilla and you want to send him on a loan, just make sure he goes to maybe a lower profile team than Dortmund, so he gets
Yeah.
to play. Maybe Girona like 2 years earlier maybe works out really well. I don't know. But either way, Dortmund was a disaster, and then Dortmund again for a second time was a disaster too. Javi
Yeah.
Sanchez to Valladolid, no one cares, but remember like when he was just on loan there and they would refuse to play him, and then as soon as we officially sold him to them, he just started starting every game. That was weird.
You're giving me Lone Tracker flashbacks,
Yeah.
especially that season when we had all three Jorge De Frutos, Andre Ludin, and Javi Sanchez all around the lead. None of them played.
Yeah.
We go through our list. Oh, any of them play? Nope.
Yeah. What about Reguilon to Tottenham?
Yeah, I mean, in hindsight, I think yeah, you do it. I really like Reguilon, but his career's kind of spiraled lately. He needs to get back on track. He was at one point it was looking like him and remember COVID? It was looking like him and Ansu Fati were like Spain's next left wing for the next decade. Like they played so well together. It was when the stands were still empty and everything. And I just remember they played amazing down the left wing together. And now it's just a completely different story there.
Reguilon's downfall was really Conte.
Yeah. Well,
Um,
and then this
he was
year
great under
at
Mourinho.
Leti, he's literally been injured the whole year, so he never
Yeah,
played.
and I think I was talking to Jeremy about Reguilon. I don't think he wasn't optimistic that Reguilon would stay. So I don't
Yeah.
know what happens to him now, but
Yeah. Well,
uh,
maybe the new Spurs manager wants him. I don't know.
he yeah, he hasn't aged well since that initial Mourinho stint. I forgot to mention this the other summer we were talking about, the one 2022, 2023. Is that the one Varane left, right? That was last summer. Was that only
Yeah.
1 year ago?
Yep.
Yeah. He's one that hasn't aged well as a footballer.
He had a better year at Manchester United
Yeah,
this
he
year
was
though.
okay, but I don't know, like he's not like the Varane of
Yeah.
I don't know.
Honestly, his best years when he was 18, 19 years old before the knee injury.
Yeah. I thought he was pretty amazing in 16, 17 too. Like
Yeah.
that kind of during the three-peat, especially like towards the first half of the three-peat. I thought he was awesome.
Yeah.
Um, all right, this takes us back now to
Wait. That COVID year, do you bring anyone in? Because we didn't bring anyone in.
well, that was a summer where like just all around Europe it was kind of at a standstill.
Yeah.
Um, Leroy Sané, I think that officially made his transfer to Bayern. There wasn't much movement other than that. Ziyech to Chelsea. That was like it for big ones. Who would we bring in now? So what was our
So
need
let
at
me
that
ask you
point? The
this.
same as
If
it
you
is now?
had if this was available, like let's say money w wasn't an issue and maybe he wanted to leave or something, knowing that he's how many years younger? 3 years younger? Would you go for a guy like Salah and knowing that we're going to sell Eden Hazard and Jovic after cutting our losses? Would you sign a guy like Salah?
How are we even going to get Salah at that point? Like at the peak of his powers, Liverpool. Why would you that it seems like very
And remember,
unrealistic.
this is after the whole shoulder incident. So
Hmm. I mean, yeah, I think that would be a good signing, but I just question how realistic it would be.
yeah, no, yeah.
Yeah. Uh, I don't have too many.
Do you
I mean,
sign? Let me ask you this. Let me ask
mhm.
you this. Do you sign a guy like Mahrez then? I'm just trying to think of like guys that
Yeah,
maybe now are like 31, 32, but back then would probably be good signings.
yeah, I think so. I think Mahrez would have been a great signing even last summer. Um, I have more regrets from the summer we're about to get to than this one. Um, this one was just a weird one because of the pandemic. This brings us back to 2019, 2020. A horrific summer. Well, some good stuff happened. Let's not be too dramatic.
Yeah, yeah.
Eden Hazard, 115 million from Chelsea. Luka Jovic, 63 million from Frankfurt. It's hard to fathom this, but I think the two worst transfers in Real Madrid history may have been in the same summer. And those are the two. Militao from Porto, home run. Ferland Mendy from Lyon, 48 million. It's kind of hard to look at it now, but he was great for us. And that really, I
Are
mean,
you saying you wouldn't? Wait. You saying you wouldn't sign Mendy for 48 million?
no, I would. I mean, those first 2 years alone were worth it. I think he paid
Yeah.
for himself. Rodrigo for 45 million. Reinier Jesus for 30 million. You got some smaller deals like Alberto Soro from Real Zaragoza, 2.5 million. Araola comes in on loan. Kubo that was the first year we signed him from FC Tokyo. Got him for free somehow. You got some Castilla promotions. Jorge de Frutos, Javi Sanchez, Danny Gomez. James Rodriguez returns from Bayern on loan. Kovacic returns from Chelsea on loan, although these guys are about to go out on the departures list. Um, Yeah, so here are the departures. Kovacic to Chelsea, 45 million. Marcos Llorente, that one stung at the time.
Hmm.
30 million to Atletico. Teo Hernandez, 22 million to Milan. Raul de Tomas, fan favorite. Benfica, 20 million. Keylor Navas goes to PSG. Odegaard goes out on loan to Real Sociedad. Borja Mayoral, loan to Levante. Dani Ceballos, loan to Arsenal. Odriozola, loan to Bayern. That was mid-season? I think that was mid-season.
Hmm.
Uh,
Yeah.
Reguilon, loan to Sevilla. That was a success. That was a
Yeah.
really fun season. Vallejo loan to Granada. Vallejo loan to Wolves. That was twice he was loaned that year. That was another disastrous year. Uh, Lunin Valladolid, De Frutos Valladolid, Soros Zaragoza, basically just loan him back out. Lunin loan to Oviedo and Segunda. Kubo goes to Mallorca. There's some other ones. Luca Zidane to Racing Santander. Dani Gomez to Tenerife. Wow.
Wow
Also,
is right.
that was the year that Lucas Silva officially left us.
So I would have obviously saved 200 million plus by not signing Hazard, Jovic, and Renier. Um, Eder Militao for Mendy, Rodrigo, great signings. Happy with that. I, in hindsight, would have done the Kovacic deal. Um, I'm good with that. I may have actually the next three. So I was not a Teo Hernandez fan. Like I didn't like his season with us at Real Madrid. I then watched him at Real Sociedad, and he was really poor there. So the AC Milan move in hindsight has been great for him. Knowing what I know now, would I keep him? I would. But I don't know he'd be a starter. Like if it were between him and Furlan, I know this is probably controversial, but I like Furlan's won a Champions League final for us defending Salah. Like he's a defender that wins duels. It depends on the system. It depends on the system. And so I think for that team, Furlan was the better option. But I would keep Teo. I would keep Raul de Tomas. I love Raul de Tomas. Watched him so many seasons, and I think he would get you the goals you need as a backup striker from the academy. And Marco Llorente, I would have kept. I think he's just such a versatile asset that you could plug him anywhere. I feel like he'd be the Nacho of the midfield and even back, like you could use him as a right back. Um, I just think the Llorente, Teo, and RDT options would have been great for depth. And like two of them from the academy, Teo, Madrid fan all his life. Like I think it would have been nice to have those guys just as additional depth.
Yeah, this one's really interesting. Yeah, Hazard and Jovic obviously don't get signed. Uh, Militao was a great success. Furlan Mendy, like we mentioned, was so instrumental, especially in those first 2 years in that Champions League run 2 seasons ago. Rodrigo, an absolute, if you told us in 2019 that in 4 years we'd be sitting on the podcast saying Rodrigo was a steal for 45 million, I think we'd be pretty happy with that.
Yeah.
Uh, Renier for 30 million, I think you probably just don't do it. We can just write that one off. Kovacic, I'm fine with too, although I really liked him. But he was also, I believe, um, this was following so he had already gone out on loan on Chelsea. He comes back, and then we just sell him to Chelsea. He doesn't actually come back; it's just his loan end and whatever.
It was after the Kovacic Barkley year.
Yeah, remember that time? Like he wasn't actually
Sorry.
doing the Chelsea starting lineup.
Yeah.
Llorente, I think, would have been a good squad player to have. Granted, I understood his position. I think that one was tricky because, as everyone knows, I was a huge Llorente fan, and I think going to Atletico of all places, it kind of hurt a little bit because also like his lineage,
Yeah.
he has so much Real Madrid DNA in him with his in his family, and he's like this born and raised Madridista. He comes to Castilla and then goes to Atletico. It kind of hurt. Um, but on some level, I just understood like he didn't want to move from Madrid. He wanted to play at a big club. At the time, he was in real contention for Spanish national team stuff. So it was important for him to play quite a bit. I understood it. Teo was an interesting one because he's a player that you would have loved to have had in the squad this past season, right? But like you said, um, it would be really hard to have him play over Mendy, who was instrumental for us. And Teo at that time wasn't that good. So it was really hard to make that decision now. But with the power of hindsight, if there was a way to get him in, like maybe last year, um, but that's not really what we're talking about here. Keylor Navas to PSG. I mean, I think you do it, even though
Yeah.
everyone
Oh,
loved him
definitely.
because,
Courtois is an animal.
yeah. Odegaard to Real Sociedad was a wild success. 4 years older to Bayern was still weird. Like you remember like all those images when Bayern won the treble and he's just standing there like with the trophy.
Yeah.
uh
Yeah, all what this has done for me is shown me all the crazy loan spells we watched. That's what I'm really reminiscing on right now.
yeah.
And all
I
the
mean
twists and turns with Lunin going to multiple places, Vallejo going to multiple places, the Barkley, Kovacic, Odegaard, Kubo, Bordalas, Emery, all of that.
and the 2000 like 19 like that era of loan tracker was we had a lot to talk about. Now kind of
Yeah, it was insane.
we don't really do loans anymore.
Yeah.
It's just we sell with rights. So it's hard to form a podcast around that, but um some of the names that went that summer, I mean, Real Madrid were by far, I think, the most active, but just for like, I was just trying to see if, like, in addition to not signing Hazard and Jovic, what direction we could have gone in because, we're still trying to figure out how to get some offensive help after Ronaldo left, with Benzema being the only one who stepped up. And my God, that summer was just a disaster for so many people. So we signed Hazard. Barca signed Griezmann for 130 million.
Hmm.
Atletico signed João Felix for 70 million. Or sorry, no, I'm getting these figures
Yeah, it
wrong.
was like 120.
127 million, sorry. Uh Coutinho, this was actually the summer after. He went on to loan to Bayern, which was great because remember he scored against
Oh
Barca in
yeah.
the 8-2. Uh Manchester United signed Harry Maguire for 87 million. Nicolas Pepe to Arsenal, 80 million.
Wow.
And there's some good signings in there as well. But I was just trying to see if there was anyone that we could have signed instead of Hazard. Probably would have just been the answer would have been better if we like was Rodrigo able to come over at that age? Yeah, he was 18, right? Maybe it would have made more sense
Yeah, he came that same
to
summer.
just give Hazard basically Rodrigo's minutes. Although like Hazard was injured so much that first season, so who was really playing? Like Vinicius obviously was playing.
Um, yeah, it
Although
was
Zidane also was not like that like persistent with Vinicius
Brahim
either.
played some minutes too.
Brahim got a lot of minutes towards the end of the season when the league was over. I
Yeah.
remember that.
Was it Isco who played on the left wing?
Isco kind of fell out of favor too. I have to go back and think.
Yeah.
I'm the timeline is
Oh,
kind of fuzzy to me.
Bale maybe?
Yeah, I'm sure he got some minutes.
I
Was
think
that
we
the
just
Bale Wales
rotated.
golf season? I think it must have been. All right, let's go back one more summer. This will be the last one we do tonight. 2018, 2019. Vinicius Jr. arrives from Flamengo for 45 million. Absolute steal. Courtois from Chelsea for 35 million. and everyone was kind of like, "Oh, okay, he's a good goalkeeper, but we have Keylor Navas. Why are we doing this?" And it's partly because Courtois, mostly because Courtois just wants to live in Madrid, and he
Yeah.
can't go back to Atletico because Jan Oblak is there. And after a couple of years where fans hated him, he just became absolutely unbelievable. Odriozola from Real Sociedad, 32 million. I was really excited for that one at the time. Mariano Diaz, 21 million from Lyon. Brahim Diaz mid-season. Um, the signing announced during the Solari era because the team was so bad. Real Madrid just wanted to announce something. 17 million from Manchester City. Lunin from Zorya Lugansk for 8.5 million. Omar Mascarell from Eintracht Frankfurt. Remember him? Wow.
Yeah.
Federico Valverde gets promoted from Castilla. Raúl de Tomás, Oscar Rodriguez, Sergio Reguilon, Lucas Zidane all move on from Castilla. Fabio Contrao, uh, somehow still on the roster at that time. He just goes to Rio Ave on a free. He ends his loan spell at Sporting. Odegaard's loan at Heerenveen ends, and some other minor ones. Okay, Exodus. Cristiano Ronaldo, 117 million to Juventus. The aforementioned Omar Mascarell gets sold to Schalke. Uh, Lucas Toro to Frankfurt. Borja Mayoral to Levante on a loan. Leonhardt sold to Freiburg for 2 million. Raul de Tomas loaned to Rayo. That was fun. Oscar Rodriguez loaned to Leganes. That was fun. And Kiko Casilla goes to Leeds. Kovacic to Chelsea on loan. Teo to Real Sociedad on loan. Andre Lunin to Leganes on loan. Achraf Hakimi to Borussia Dortmund on loan. That was fun. Odegaard to Vitesse on loan. That was also fun.
Yeah. So I think the Cristiano Ronaldo one, I think you do it, obviously, given what you know in hindsight. He had a couple good years still at Juventus, but I don't think he would have fetched the same fee for each year he got older. So I think what you captured and when he left, it made perfect sense. I just don't think we replaced him well, given that Mariano took over the number 7. And everyone thought like after the Roma goal that he was going to be a great signing, but it ultimately didn't work out. Um, Odriozola, I think we've talked about this enough. He's not one you would sign. But to your point, we were all really excited about him. Like he was playing for Spain. Lopetegui loved him.
Oh man, he was
Um,
unreal at Real
yeah,
Sociedad at the age of
yeah, he was playing
22.
so well. Yeah. So it was obviously a big disappointment. Um, I would have let. So you remember Solari? Apparently, news came out like after the fact, after the season was over, that Solari wanted to bring back Odegaard in the winter. That's a big what if moment. If Odegaard got to play um, that winter when Solari was giving so many kids a chance, and that would have been fun to see him and Vinicius Jr. and Valverde and all those guys linking up in a season that was really a dud for us. Um, Other than that, like I think the club did well. We really didn't sell that many players. This was the year that Sergio Reguilon got promoted. And he did really well. It's when he barked at Luis Suarez in the Clásico.
Mm-hmm.
I guess in hindsight, would you have made more drastic decisions? Like I would have sold Gareth Bale,
Yeah.
knowing what I know. I would have sold Marcelo, as sad as that is to say. Um, I would have sold Jesus Vallejo. I I would have sold um
Isco's another one, I
Isco.
think,
Yeah, Isco, and
which is
maybe even
kind of
Asensio.
like Isco was quite. I mean, he was an integral part of Lopetegui who came in that year. Well, him and Asensio, like, and
For two
Ceballos,
months.
those three, Lopetegui, they were perfect for what Lopetegui wanted to do. But just knowing when Solari came in and just put Isco in a prison, and
And Marcelo.
knowing that, yeah, and Marcelo, knowing that, you could have got a lot of money for selling
Yeah. Bale,
Isco at his
Marcelo,
peak.
Isco. Yeah.
Bale, right after he did that bicycle kick in the
Yeah.
final, his value was high. Marcelo, his value was high. You could have gotten a lot. And think about it in the case of Bale in particular, how much that contract handcuffed you after that.
Yeah. Yeah. That's the big one. That's for
Yeah.
me the one that we had. But it's so hard to do that after Cristiano left. But at the
Yeah.
same time, a lot of people were saying like Bale should just go too because it's time to start. It's time to like we won the Champions League, time to do a revolution, like time to rebuild the squad and do the full transition. So a lot of people, as much as like you look back and say, oh, well, you sold Cristiano, so you can't sell Bale too. But I think it would have been more accepted at that time just because, like, given everything that happened with Bale and how he came out after the Champions League final, like, I think everyone was like, you know what, let's just rebuild the squad, rebuild the attack. Like, we can let Bale go too. And it ultimately came back to bite us in the ass.
There's other what ifs too. Like, what if you didn't hire Lopetegui? Um, like I have questions. I'm
Who would you
curious.
have hired? We wanted Pochettino. I remember we all wanted Pochettino that summer.
Yeah. Um, I have just I'm curious to see how like a couple alternate timelines play out. One is if I know he didn't want to because I think he kind of left on his own volition, but what if Zidane had stayed for one more year? Uh, I think that changes the careers of Isco. This is a tricky one
He
because
came back though. He came back within 6 months.
so I remember we were saying like when Zidane comes back, let's see what he does with Isco and Marcelo. And if he decides Isco and Marcelo are also not usable anymore, then Solari was right. And Zidane came back and kind of came to the same conclusion that
Yeah,
Solari
he
did.
gradually got there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because I remember the first game that Zidane came back, he started Isco and Marcelo, remember?
Hmm.
And then after a while, he just stopped, especially in Isco's case, he just stopped playing them. And by the time, he got Mendy the next season, then he was
Yeah.
totally okay with not playing Marcelo in
Yeah.
in big games. So I think Zidane basically came to the same conclusion as Solari did. I wonder what that would have changed if he had just stayed that summer and then he. But the thing is, if you don't get, I'll take this to my grave, man. There was like 1 week of Solari that I was like loving life. It was like it was around the time where like Regulon was promoted, Marcos
It
Llorente
was
was
kind of
close.
exciting when he
Yeah,
was playing all these kids. Like that
yeah.
was the one thing that you could get excitement out of in that god awful season.
Well, let's also remember that he's the one that gave promoted
Vinicius,
Vinicius.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah. And Vinicius was unreal that year, apart from
yeah,
scoring. But he was
yeah,
like I remember being at that. There was a week from hell, right? So there was
yeah.
the Ajax debacle, and then we had the Barca
The
elimination in the
Barca,
Copa.
yeah,
I was at all those games, and the Ajax one was really bad, obviously, but the one at home against Barca, the one that we lost, or I don't know if we drew or lost, but we were eliminated either way. Vinicius was just cooking that game. Like he
yeah,
was putting PK in a blender, and he's like this kid, and
yeah.
everyone's like, "Man, this guy's gonna be awesome!" Like we were so excited. Like that was fun. Like I wonder what the alternate timeline is if Lopetegui like doesn't get fired after the Clasico and Solari doesn't come. How much does that change like the careers of
Yeah,
everybody, including Vinicius?
yeah.
Um,
That coupled with if they signed Hazard the next season and he never got injured, like how
yeah,
much does that temper Vinicius's whole career arc?
yeah,
But there's so many what ifs with Vinicius because think about if Mbappe was signed, like the year he exploded was 2021 when Mbappe was supposed to come,
yeah.
and we made the 200 million bid or whatever that was rejected. And like, imagine if Mbappe came that summer. And it's another what if for Vinicius. Would he have ever had the chance to fully explode like he did?
That's an interesting one. I know that he wouldn't get benched, so I think it would have been,
No, he
they.
wasn't playing. He wasn't starting at that time. This is
Well,
when Ancelotti's first season. Remember, he came in off the bench the first couple of games, and then he
you're
scored
talking about
against
2 seasons
Levante.
ago,
Yeah,
so not. Okay, so not this past summer. The one.
Yeah,
Hmm.
that's when Mbappe was supposed to come. That one, 2021,
Well, last
when
summer
we
was
made
the one
the
he rejected us. How many summers? I'm
yeah.
losing track. How many
Every
times did he say?
summer, every summer. Remember the 2021 was the one where we made the bids where he really wanted to come. He publicly said he wanted to come. We made the bids, and then the Emir of Qatar apparently never even responded. Like, just didn't even. We made like a 200 million bid, no response. 250 million bid, no response. And like
Right.
Mbappe came out with that interview afterwards and said he was so upset that the move didn't happen and blah blah blah.
I'm trying to think of how good Vinicius was at that time.
He was not starting. He was not starting. Remember, Ancelotti
That was
started Hazard and Bale that first game.
just for the first few games, though.
Yeah, and then Vinicius came off the bench and scored a chip against that crazy Levante game that was like 4-3. We won 4-3 or something. And Vinicius came off the bench and scored a couple goals. He wasn't starting. He wasn't starting in preseason. He wasn't starting at
But
the
then
start of the
eventually he
season.
became a starter, right? Because you remember he
Yeah,
scored
and
that
then he
goal against
exploded.
Liverpool.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and then he exploded. That was the season he exploded in the first season where he scored 20 goals, 20 assists, and like became this unbelievable player. Like that actually had end production as well. But what if Mbappe came that summer? Would Vinicius even have had the chance to have that season?
Yeah. These are all good questions, man. My hope is that Vinicius is so good that he would have shown through. But yeah, it's true. It's an interesting point. Timing really matters for the success
Yeah,
of footballers. I always bring up the example of like, what happens if, you know, Gavi and Pedri, for example, are coming up during the Xavi and Iniesta era. Like, what happens to them? Um, Likewise, what has happened to so many Real Madrid youngsters who have come up like in the Modric and
Toni
Kroos
Kroos.
eras,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
It's crazy. Uh, all right. So I think we're gonna stop at this juncture. 2018 to like though in the year after, those are really, really big summers and a lot of big decisions were made, which were bad or good for the club. But that was the year that I think was super interesting to look back on. You know what I think it gets really interesting too, Matt? Once you get to like the 2003-4 range, I think it gets really interesting too.
yeah.
I'm not sure when we'll do part two of this series. It really depends on the
The new,
news. Yeah.
yeah.
Uh, all right. So if you guys wanted the Mbappe dialogues, that's over on patreon.com/managing Madrid. If you want Castilla breakdown over, after today's heartbreak, that's coming up in a matter of moments in part two. Please stick around. And just a reminder, please book your spot to Dallas and Houston. And as always, keep it locked on managingmadrid.com. Matt Wiltsey, it was a pleasure, man. Thanks for taking the
Thanks
time.
again.
All right, man. Chat soon. Peace.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Managing Madrid podcast. This is the Castilla Corner and probably, possibly, surely the saddest Castilla Corner in the history. I think not. We haven't been recording for that many years, but still a lot of episodes, and this is definitely the toughest moment. And I'm joined by Rudium, and Rudium, what can we say after a night like this?
I'm just heartbroken, kind of. I expected from the way the game started, I expected, just everything to be. I know it's like very unlikely for Castilla, but I expected a smooth sailing. But I'm just really, I'm really disappointed,
Well,
man.
yeah, smooth
Uh,
sailing. This must be the furthest from smooth sailing that's possibly possible to get. So yeah,
yeah,
but it's always allowed to hope, I guess.
yeah. I mean, it's like I knew it was gonna be a tough game, but like Castilla scored two in the first 20 minutes, 25 minutes.
Mm.
And then it was like, you know what, they're playing well. They're keeping the ball. They're doing so much stuff with it. They're making so many chances.
Mm.
And then everything just changed after the second goal. They were like, okay, we need to go back on the back foot. And then so to be fair, they were really. Like they pushed Castilla after that second goal.
Yeah.
But Castilla still had the game in their hands, and they just bottled it.
They did, and I think maybe this is an episode where more people than normally will tune in. So maybe we should just take some basic playoff information for those who are not sure. And I think even for those who have followed Castilla for the whole season, there could be some I don't know, confusion about why is the game over, which I'm gonna get to. But so Castilla finished third and therefore had to go into the playoffs. Now we had an incredible comeback against Barcelona B in the semifinals of the playoff. This was the finals, and two-leg final actually. First game draw, and then there are these rules, and I knew that if we were gonna go out, I knew I was going to complain about this, but the thing is that Castilla now, of course, they face a team from another group, so there are two groups in this division. Castilla and Eldense, they both finished on 69 points, but because Eldense finished second in their group and Castilla finished third, it meant that if the game went to extra time and it finished with a draw, then there would not be a penalty shootout. Then Eldense would go through. And this is exactly what happened. And this is why I think a lot of people will now be asking, well, it's 3-3. Maybe some people are, as we're recording, still waiting because where is the penalty shootout? Well, it's not coming. Castilla are out, Eldense are through. And it's just, I mean, how bitter is it to go out like this and after not even losing either of the two legs in the final?
Yeah, it's brutal, man. It's like if it was like, like I said in the last episode that this format it just sucks. Like I'm not trying to be like the upset fan that whose team just lost the game. No, first of all, they didn't lose the game. Second of all, this have said it from the start. Even if Castilla had won, I don't find this format to be very like. It's not good. It's not good.
But is it? Can I just ask? Is this normal to have it like? Is this like the usual? I have never followed, for example, the championship, English championship. There's always been some famous playoff games there, but I've never really truly followed them. Is it normal to have it like this? I mean, I've never heard about such a rule.
I mean, to my knowledge, I can be wrong, but I haven't really ever seen like two groups in a Premier League, not a Premier League, but an English division. Like I haven't seen, I think two groups. I've just seen like 40 teams in one.
That's the thing, I guess. Yeah, that's the thing. But still, even then, there would be like a case where the two teams facing, one of them would be higher in the table than the other one. So this is exactly what's happened here. That Castilla finished third in their group, and then Eldense the second in their group, and that's why now they go through. But yeah.
Go on, finish your point. I'm sorry.
No, there will be more complaining. So
yeah, I mean, I think this is gonna be just a complaint, like a podcast full of complaints because. But it's just like, yeah, go on. You can finish your point. It's okay.
There's no point. There's no point. I'm just very, very upset, and I'm gonna make a lot of sounds and noises, and I don't know. Okay, if you had something to say, then go on before we continue.
Yeah, I could tell from your text that you were not feeling okay after the game. I just had an intuition, but anyway. Even if you want to follow, like if you want to give the advantage to the team that's higher ranked, first of all, you're already giving that by having them play the first game away and the second home.
Exactly. Yes.
And then you just give them another advantage that if the game goes into extra time and still draw, they go through. That's just bullshit because you're giving two advantages to one team that finished on the same amount of points as a team in the other group. Like, it's just insane.
And oh, I just thought of another thing. They also removed the away goals. So I mean, if you think about it, Castilla would have gone through on away goals because they scored 3 and then scored 1 at our stadium. So I mean, there's just so many things, and we haven't even started with the game. I mean, this is like Castilla at its best and its worst. This is just, I've never seen a game, especially of this importance, where it's just like you have everything from Castilla. You have the brilliance of Sergio Arribas, you have the brilliance of Rafael Obrador, and you have Dotor arriving into the box again and again, and scoring, and just the players fighting. Pablo Ramon, look at Pablo Ramon today. He played right back, played left back, he played left wing, it seemed. But and we were 2-0 up. We were 2-0 up. That is also 2-0 up in like the 46th minute. I mean, 1 minute into the injury time in the first half. And maybe this is exactly the problem. And maybe you were thinking the same. And maybe that's the problem. A lot of people, and maybe including the players, were thinking the same as me. That please don't score now. Please don't score in injury time in the first half. We have a 2-0 lead. It would be so perfect to start the next half with 2-0 cushion. And we knew what would happen, no? After that goal, didn't we? We knew what would come.
I mean, it was bound to happen. Firstly, because that's what always happens. And secondly, because it's Castilla. So
yeah, exactly. It's just
Man, it kind of like killed the confidence for the players, and like even before the first half ended, they were like, you know what, we just conceded. Now the momentum is on their side.
To be honest, I have forgotten about so many things. I don't even remember. Okay, so the first goal was from it was I think Obrador won the free kick. Was that a free kick which Arribas swung in and for Rafa Marin? Yeah, nice free kick, nice header. Obrador, by the way, so sad that he had to go off with an injury because he was incredible in that first half. He
was probably the best player.
Obrador at his best, just bombing down the left and hitting crosses and not doing anything wrong. And he is a running machine. I mean, I guess he's one of the players who could have been playing for the whole 120 minutes. And then the second goal, help me. The second goal, Arribas involved again. I remember what happened again.
I think it was a corner. I think. Yeah, it was a corner.
Just so many things.
Yeah, it was a corner, and then it got to Alvaro. The ball got to Alvaro.
No, I remember it was Obrador played down the left again, and he hit a low ball, and then it got to Alvaro Rodriguez, and I'm not. Was it a pass? Was it a bad touch? I'm not sure. I wrote in the post match in the match report that it was either an awful touch or a brilliant touch, and it fell to Dotor.
Yeah, I completely forgot. I thought it didn't make sense in my head, the ball coming to Alvaro like on his feet, and then him giving the ball to Dotor. No, it was a cross from Obrador, and then Obrador involved in both of the goals indirectly. But it was a really good start from Castilla. Really, really good start. And it wasn't even the goals. Like, they were actually playing really well.
They were.
They were making so many chances. They were retaining the ball. They were pressing well sometimes. They didn't have to press that much because I think they had the majority of the ball. And then it was just good, really good performance. Even like Arribas had a really good chance in the first half, like in the first 15, 20 minutes. Where he just bombed through the whole midfield and took a shot that just went wide.
Yeah. Arribas for this team is everything. I do think that we did play decent without him. So I'm not going to say it's definite, but I don't think we would have been even close to being here, so close without him. He was so good against Barca when he came on. So good now again. Yeah, he has been this, needless to say, the star player most valuable player of the division, and
Easily,
impresses more and more every game.
Yeah, it's also worth noting that Nico Paz and Arribas both started this game,
Yeah,
which
that's a
was
good point.
which was surprising because it's either or, it's not both at the same time, like ever. It was really nice to see Arribas play with Nico Paz, and we had Alvaro dropping another pretty bad performances.
He's in a bad form now. And I also
don't
think
bad cuts it, man.
What do you say?
I don't think bad cuts it, man. He's been really bad in these last few weeks. Like even when he wasn't scoring the first few games, you knew that he was there. Apart from the assists, I don't remember one single contribution from Alvaro today.
Well, yeah, I get what you mean, but he does have it's tough conditions now, because this game, and I will have to mention, like, okay, so let's go into this to the stats here, because there's one thing which annoyed me so much, and I cannot believe that the Spanish referees in a country, they're so proud of their technical players. How have they not figured this out yet? So let's look at this. This game, the stats. How can I find the number of fouls?
Oh, I was gonna mention this today. Yes.
I can find it. I think I know quickly, but was it at least? I think we got over 25, 26, close to 30. No, 30 fouls just from Eldense.
It was 29 fouls from. Yeah, 29 fouls from Eldense alone.
29 fouls just from Eldense. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 yellows. And this is something I just want to get out as I'm thinking about it. Just, shouldn't there be like some kind of, I know you can't make like a mathematical rule, but there must be like something close to that. If you make 30 fouls, you have to give yellow cards just for them repeating the same over and over and over again, and just because this was credit to them actually, because it was a fantastic tactic. They made it work, and this is why I wanted to bring it up regarding Alvaro. Incredibly tough conditions to play against a team who are just fouling and holding your shirt, and you're doing everything to stop you. And I thought Alvaro, I think this is why Raul kept him on for so long. He with his back to the goal, as a target man, he did get quite a lot of duels. He won, which seemed impossible. So I get why he was kept on, but I also know what you're saying, that apart from that, not too much from him.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair to Alvaro, I think his whole play was really good. Yeah, definitely. I completely forgot about it because of whatever happened during the game.
It was
such a long game, and I don't even remember that much from Alvaro. But yeah, his whole play was good. His assist was, if it was intentional, then it was really good. Apart from that, I don't actual presence in the box is what I meant, and I didn't see much from him. And his heading is supposed to be really good, and it was really good for the first team whenever he played and whenever he scored, whenever he assisted. It's just it hasn't been there. He hasn't even been getting that many chances.
For me, this is more of a criticism of the team for not giving him enough chances. I think he needs to be served more than he's been doing.
Yes, but also he hasn't been that active in the box either. He's not helping his own case either. That's what I mean. I think it's both. The service, especially from the right, because there's no Vinicius Tobias, and Vinicius Tobias, even if he is there, his crossing is not the best. Obrador is a really good crosser, but I think it's just I don't know. I mean, maybe it's the service is not enough. Maybe but it's also his movement. I don't think he's been that active since his injury, and he just hasn't felt the same since he got back. In the first two games, his presence was there sometimes. Apart from that, in every single game after that, he hasn't been.
Yeah, and if I'm gonna make a counter argument to myself, I mean, one player who with not the same size or the strength and everything, Dotor shows how much you can do by good movement in the box, how many
Definitely.
chances you can get. So you are right. It's not just about the service from the rest of the team.
Dotor was once again, he was so important today. His late runs into the box, he's excelled. Those runs into the box, man. I'm pretty sure this is going to be his last game for Castilla. Could be. But I mean, he could just continue and play like captain Castilla for another season. I don't know.
He should go somewhere else. Yeah,
he needs to, but I mean, he just loves playing for Castilla, I guess. I don't know. But anyway,
but his movement is incredible, and he just keeps scoring. I think this is something very valuable to have as a central midfielder, and it's quite rare as well. So he's a hard-working player. He's a good leader. He scores goals. He does pretty well in all aspects of the game. So this is he's not the youngest in the Castilla side, but he can do good things in, for example, La Liga. I'm sure.
And he's a good leader as well.
Yeah,
you can see, like, even vocally, he makes his presence known to the other guys. He tells them, "I'm there for you. You need to play well." And I think that's a really good quality. I think that's the same for like Arribas, but more so that Arribas leads by example and Dotor is more vocal. That's why I think he's the captain, I guess. We should talk about the goals that we conceded. Well, I mean, we could actually talk about the third goal that we scored. The penalty.
I get sick while thinking about the goals we conceded. But let's talk about the goal that hurt the least, I guess, which was the first goal they scored, and then it was 2-1. We were still leading. I gotta say, it was fantastic cross, fantastic header. I don't think. I mean, Alvaro Carrillo, and I was thinking I was not gonna bring him up. Because I don't want to make anyone the scapegoat, but after Aranda's mistake towards the end, I think we need to split the blame is an expression in Norwegian. I don't know if it's the same here in English, but So for both of the first two goals, I thought Obrador was not good enough. He was not close enough for the player who scored. First goal was, as I said, an incredible header, but he could have done better. And also the second goal. The second goal was, it was just not close enough to, and it was like a pass on the floor. So
I don't remember the goals, by the way. I'm just going to let you know.
So I mean, it's difficult to describe them, but it ended up with a low pass from the right into a player who was centrally, and Alvaro Carrillo was just not close enough to stop the shots. And then, I mean, the moment came because I gotta be honest. When we conceded that goal, I was just thinking psychologically. Players must have been so down, and everyone knows if there's a team leading and then the other team equalizing, they have a huge psychological advantage going into the extra time. And I gotta be honest, I almost took it for granted that we would lose. But then, in the 108th minute, what happened then, Rydion?
So the greatest player of all time.
Yeah.
I think it was him that gets fouled in the box, right?
It was, and I'm gonna be honest. I'm not sure if he was fouled. Maybe.
Yeah, it was a bit controversial. Like, it could have been either way. I think it depended on the referee, but I mean, I would have given it because Castilla,
I didn't see it close enough, to be fair. It could have been contact.
If
it was contact, it's a penalty. But I'm not. I'm just saying it could have. It also looked like it could have been a dive. So, but anyway.
Yeah, I mean, I think there was some contact, but I don't think it was enough for a pen. But I think Arribas sold it pretty well. Anyway,
and the penalty. Were you as nervous as I was?
Oh, I was so nervous. I was like, I was just sitting there. I was just praying, and I was like, "Oh my God, it's Arribas, man! You have to fucking score!" And it was it was beautiful. Like, every time someone goes really low grounded penalty in the opposite side of the goalkeeper, and slowly as well, it's my favorite, and it was so beautiful. It was so the moment was so there was so much pressure, you know.
Mm.
Arribas, he just doesn't feel pressure, man. He scored 3 straight goals in
Well,
like, you know, tough moments.
he does something smart, which maybe some other players should learn from. He did this against Barca as well. He gave the ball to Aranda, and they pretended he was the one taking the penalty. And then when everything had calmed down because they were complaining for like 2 minutes, then he took the penalty and but also again I had a feeling because I wasn't like celebrating that like we had won. I gotta admit, I still felt like this is not over.
Yeah.
And it wasn't, even though we probably, I see here, we scored in the 108th minute. I'm sure we must have celebrated for at least 2 minutes. So at the clock, it must have been like 110 when the game started again. And they scored in the 114th. So,
yep.
And then there is one guy. Unfortunately, there's no way around it. We have to bring up his name. There's one name now that I will probably forever associate with this game.
Yeah,
and who am I talking about?
The Oscar Aranda game.
The Oscar Aranda, the moment. Was it a free kick? I haven't watched any replays. I thought it was a clear free kick. And I think the other players, I just assumed they would get a free kick because they switched off, I thought. Did you see any replay? I just refused to watch any replay. So did you see it?
No, I didn't. I don't remember that much, but yeah, I think the players are switched off for a second and that's what changed everything. And I mean, Aranda, I now finally have my words to say about him. You know how always said that Aranda is not that great, and even though I praised him as of late, I have still kept my point that, you know what, Aranda is not. He's not my favorite Castilla player.
No. But it's a shame because he came on, and I thought that, you know, when everyone else. I thought maybe the players were hiding a little bit. They weren't showing themselves from their best sides. Even Arribas, I guess credit to Eldense, even though Arribas was involved in all of the goals. I thought they managed to get the worst out of him. He was pretty quiet for an Arribas performance. This was quite quiet, I would say. But Aranda, credit to Aranda. I thought he took responsibility. He wanted the ball all the time. He did a lot of good stuff with it, dribbled, and he is very difficult to stop when he starts dribbling. He shifted the play, and he did a lot of good things. But as someone said, I guess several people pointed out on Twitter, there is a reason why there are so few B teams in the Segunda División, and it's because of these mistakes. If you make silly, unnecessary rookie mistakes like this, then it's difficult to get a promotion. And again and again and again and again, it's been happening. And it's natural, I guess, for a reserve side for what's almost an academy team. But yeah, Aranda, this will be a tough moment for him.
Yeah, going back to what I was saying about him, I was just going to finish my point by saying that the reason why I don't like Aranda that much, and I didn't have these words like before, but now I just got them after this game, that I just find him to be a very is unserious the right word? Because that's the vibe I get from Aranda.
It's the body language, right?
Yes, exactly. Yeah, I just don't see him like Dotor, he's giving his all. Arribas, he's giving his all. Aranda, I just don't know if he cares enough. Like it doesn't. Maybe I'm just being a bit not emotional per se, but just right now it's a tough moment for Castilla. But Aranda's it's not just this game, by the way. It's I've felt about him like this for every single game he's ever played, even the good ones, that he just doesn't have that He's just I don't find him to be a serious enough football player for Castilla.
Yeah, I think it's difficult to make that statement without knowing him and without seeing him training and everything. I haven't heard any reports about him being a lazy player, but I agree. I mean, as a player, he's not like the guy who's pressing the most and covering the fullback and everything. So in that point, I
And
agree.
he's prone to mistakes as well. I'm not saying he's like that in training or anything like that. I'm not making that claim at all. For all I know, he might be a really good person and a really good guy to hang out with. But from what I've seen at Castilla games, he's made a lot of mistakes, and this is the biggest one, I guess.
But he is a player who makes a lot of mistakes because he dares. He is actually kind of a brave player, because he seems so calm. But that also, it's like Toni Kroos. I think Pep Guardiola says that in the toughest moments, he's the bravest of them all. And I'm not gonna use those words about Aranda, but he did not hide today, and he got the ball in a tough position, and he should have just cleared it in hindsight. But I just wanna, because I know he's gonna get slaughtered now, so I just wanna lift him up a little bit and praise him, and also just point out that. And I think it's super important that we just not focus on this single moment. We gotta admit, even how well Castilla have been performing for the whole season, they have been losing a lot of leads, 2-0 leads, 1-0 leads, in the dying minutes. This is not the first time that it's happened. So for me, it's almost like this sums up Castilla, this game, almost.
Yeah, this is going to be a long podcast.
Yeah.
There's going to be a lot of complaints.
Yeah.
You know what? I'm here for it. Like, it's 3 a.m. I don't care right now. Like, it's like I had so many complaints when I, was sitting, like, I was drinking some water when you sent me that link. I was just, I'm just going to calm myself down. And it just doesn't matter anymore because I'm still pretty angry about it. Castilla, I've seen this for literally seasons under Raul. It's not the first time. It's not the first game they've bottled their lead. It is not the first game in these last few weeks that they've bottled the lead. It's happened so many times. And this season, it could have been much easier for them if they just focused for 100% for 90 minutes. I know that's really difficult, but that's what makes champions. That's how you become. That's how you finish at the top of the table. If you focus every single minute, that's how you get promotion, get automatic promotion, and you don't have to face Eldense and lose cruelly in a 3-3 draw. So,
but I'm not sure if it's only about concentration. I think, this is, Castilla is a good example of a team with a lot of brilliance, technical brilliance. But the reason why you need experience in the team is for games like this. And I think more than concentration, I think it's about the players almost get paralyzed because they're so nervous, and it's like they're so young. I mean, a lot of players, they're born in like 2004, 2005. I mean, so
yeah.
I'm
not saying it's the only factor. 100% experience is a really important factor in these sort of games. 100%. I don't disagree one bit. But there's also, Raul has been a decent manager tactically this season. He's done quite a lot of things well. He's tried to fix some of Castilla's main problems. But I think the two main problems that he hasn't fixed are defense. I don't know, man. First of all, we already know, even though it didn't happen in this game, they concede a lot from set pieces, and that has happened for years. We both know that. And secondly, it's like they give the game to the opponent. They gift it to the opponent by being so terrible on the defensive end. The problem is never on the attack. They always, if they're going up, they're going to make chances. They might even score one or two. And that's that's what I expect from Castilla. But the problem lies in the defense. they're so like they leave people open in the box when it's such an important game. And yes, experience plays a part in that, but it's also like defensive structures and
Yeah.
tracking and
Yeah.
marking your player. It's those things. I've seen so many players is completely open. And if you look at the second goal now, I remember the second goal. The second goal, there was no pressure from Castilla players, nothing. And then you get the ball onto the half space, and the cross in, well, not a cross, a pass into the box. The guy was completely open. No one was marking him.
I also wanna like point out that a guy who needs some credit after this game is Luis Lopez in goal. Mario de Luis was injured, and he came in and hasn't played for the whole season almost. And I was thinking, if we won that game, I would have put his save as my screensaver or a profile picture or something, because that save, it's like I thought it was a typical save that would have been forgotten. Now it definitely will be forgotten. But even if we had won the game, Arribas would have stolen the headlines. But that save from Luis Lopez was incredible. And it is another example of what you're saying, that we gave them the opportunities, and it was just about, in some way, it was, we were like depending a little bit on luck, on them not finishing their chances. And unfortunately, they were just clinical for the most part. We also need to mention, because even after all of the things we've mentioned now, there are still a couple of things that's, a couple of insane moments, I would say. So shouldn't we have gotten another penalty? Pablo Ramon one. I had totally switched off. I was like, I'm barely gonna watch this. I'm turning down the volume after we conceded. I'm not taking this. I was watching, but like I had given up. And then suddenly, out of nothing, Pablo Ramon got the ball in the box, and it was a huge chance. And it was, I'm sure he would have scored if he got the opportunity to finish, but he was hindered. And to me, it seemed like a penalty kick. Don't you agree?
Yeah, I think it was a penalty.
In the 120th minute, I'm not sure if I said wrong. 120th minute. That surely would have been the winner. If even Castilla wouldn't have messed that up in the very last minute. If Arribas had scored, that would have been a winner.
Yeah, 100%. That was a pen. So Iker Bravo, I think, took a shot, and it was a really weak shot, so it just fell to Pablo Ramon's feet. And Pablo Ramon was turning, and as he was turning, I was about to take his shot. He was basically kicked from by a defender from Eldense, and he fell down, and the ball went to the goalkeeper. And it wasn't given a penalty.
It actually hurts when you're talking now, because I just imagine this incredible moment we could have had with the winning goal in the 120th minutes.
What if it's so beautiful, man?
But also, and it didn't stop there. I don't know which player, because I turned it off immediately after to avoid the celebrations. But yeah, one of our players almost scored from his own half, and it was an incredible attempt. I thought it was actually going in. This game had everything. Do you know which player it was?
I'm not sure.
I'm not gonna go back and
could have been one of Theo Zidane or Rafa Marin. I'm not sure which one it was, and just kicked the ball up in the air, and I was like, "What the fuck are you doing? It's the last second. Please don't mess this up now." And it was slowly dipping towards the goal. I was like, "Wait a minute, it could literally go in." And then it just missed the crossbar, and it was
I'm gonna scroll a little bit and try to find out who it was, because credit to him for that was an incredible shot. And it just, all of this just adds to this like hopelessness that I'm feeling now, that we followed this. This is a thing also. Castilla, I would know us after following for so many years that there's not that many. It's not a guarantee that Castilla will catch your heart or win your heart. There have been a lot of gray, boring Castilla teams like with Solari or, for example, I mean, but I saw someone writing that Raul's team is like an emotional side, emocionante. It makes you, it's a team that's very easy to fall in love with, and more than ever, Castilla have, it's felt like a second favorite team. It's not just a team that I'm following because I want to watch the development of promising players. It's felt like having a second favorite team. And such a long season. I saw someone writing that it's been 11 months. And it comes down to this. Now, it's just brutal. It is absolutely brutal.
Yeah, 100%. It was Aranda actually.
Was it?
Yeah.
I'm
looking at Aaron Fabregas' tweets. He said 127th minute Aranda shot from own field that almost slipped through. It's very close.
No. I did not need that information. That would have been so perfect. Oh
yeah. Now that I think about it, yeah, I saw it was Aranda. I was like, bro, please don't do this. And he did it.
That is a Hollywood moment right there. That is, oh my God. That's gonna hurt even more now. Oh.
Yeah. And yeah, it's been a really long season. And Castilla, actually, as I've told you, because I'm a Madrid fan, obviously, so I don't really see teams fighting for promotion and that thrill. You don't get it. And when you watch Castilla, you kind of get it. And it was really fun covering Castilla this year. It's
actually very recommendable. I totally agree. It's recommendable to have like this feeling that you will never have with the first team.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it was my first full season covering Castilla. I mean, second if you count last season, which for which I wrote a little bit, but this season was my full proper podcast included season that I covered Castilla for. It was really fun, and I didn't think it was going to be this heartbreaking, but it is kind of.
But you do. I mean, you do get to know the players, and it's like, as you said, a whole 11-month season.
Yeah, definitely. And when I remember when I first watched a Castilla game, it was my first time. I had to I was gonna write about it at the end, like player ratings and stuff. So I had to write down every single player's name and then have the kit number next to it because I didn't know most of these players, and now I know almost every single one.
Exactly.
And yeah, it's a shame that this group didn't go through to the second division, but you know what?
And now what's I'm gonna mention some negatives and at least one positive. So what's bad about this is that now we will see the team totally being ripped apart. Goodbye Sergio Arribas, goodbye Rafa Marin, goodbye Dotor. Every single 21, 22-year-old Castilla player who has been brilliant for us and played at least 2 seasons will be gone for sure. Yeah. And Raul, if he stays, wow, credit to him, I guess. But
I don't think I'll call that credit.
I don't know. I think it's. I mean, if he does it for the club, I guess it's a bit of credit. Yeah. But it's just, we will now have a total new team, and I've mentioned it a lot of times that I've been so fan of us, actually building a team, not changing the whole damn squad for like we do normally each summer with Castilla. The whole squad goes out. Yeah. Now it will happen. So that's the negative parts. The positive is, we've talked a lot about the damage this is. I mean, or the contrary, the advantage of having a team in the second highest division, because you would be able to play or convince players that otherwise would maybe go out on loan. They could play at Castilla, a higher level. But one thing that I thought of is that, Castilla in one higher division would lose a lot more games, would be like a relegation side, would be much harder for a player like Arribas or whatever to shine. So actually, from a talent production perspective, I'm not sure. I think this is also why the club has not invested like tons of money in this. I do think there are advantages to having Castilla playing at a bit of a lower level, actually. If we're gonna try to look at some bright sides.
Yeah, I mean, I've thought about this. I was thinking about it today actually before the game. Like, it would suck really bad to lose. Obviously, like I don't want them to lose, but it's better for the players if they are in a winning environment, and if they are winning games, they're gaining confidence, they're playing well. If you're in the second division and you put in some new guys like Manuel Angel and stuff like that, you don't know what you're gonna get from them, obviously. And secondly, you don't know, like as a team, how they're gonna play, because Arribas might not have stayed in the second division either. Like he could have just gone away.
Yeah, and you know, if you think about it like that, how important, I think this is a great point you bring up here. If you think about how important Arribas has been to Castilla, and you got to take him out of Castilla no matter what, you know, unless he's going to be like a Castilla part first team player or something like that. He needs to move on for sure. And when you think about it, would the team have survived in one division higher without Arribas? Unless they would have signed a ton of players and, you know, some really quality ones, I truly doubt that we would have survived more than the season in that level.
Yeah, me neither. Especially without Arribas. Arribas is just heart and soul of this team. He does everything in the attack. And
can I just mention a few teams that we would have played, just to like put it into perspective, what kind of opposition we would have faced? So
yeah,
Valladolid, Espanyol, Elche, those are going down from La Liga now. And we also have Levante, Eibar, for example, Racing Santander, Zaragoza, Leganés, Sporting Gijón. These are teams that, you know, all Real Madrid fans would recognize because we have played them, and a lot of them have big stadiums and fans, and yeah. So what did we lose today? Maybe we lost 1 year. Like losing a lot of games in the second highest division. I mean, now I'm just trying to spin it into the most positive that I can, if you understand.
Yeah, I'm looking at this. I'm listening to you talk about Arribas and stuff. I'm looking at this picture of Arribas that was tweeted, and he's just waving his hand, and it just makes me kind of sad that this might have been the last Castilla game that we saw, and like Arribas playing, you know. It's just like, it kind of makes me sad, man. He's such a really, like, I think he's my favorite player out of Castilla, like just Castilla alone, because I haven't watched that many Castilla games as you have maybe, but Arribas is just, I'm so connected to him. Like I'm actually like really I enjoy watching him play. I would probably watch him play for another team, that if he goes on loan, I would 100% watch.
Yes.
And I'm just kind of sad that this might have been the last game that we see from Arribas at Castilla. I hope he gets promoted. I swear to God, now I hope that he gets promoted. I don't want him to go, man.
You know what? And I just this is maybe naive, but how much of a difference will it be comparing him and Brahim Diaz, for example? I mean, I know Brahim Diaz has been playing in Champions League semi-final. I mean, he's much more established player playing at the highest level for years. But the brilliance of Arribas, just another game today, makes me so sure that if this guy doesn't become a top player, then I will not. I don't know football. This is just an incredible talent we have here, and I don't think we understand how good he is. I mean, we just take it for granted. In every game, he's just so brilliant, and not just the way he creates chances and every touch. You mentioned one of the chances he created in the first half. He just ran through the heart of the defense and managed to get off a shot. He's also not only creating chances, but he's decisive. He has assists. He scores goals. He has more than 20 goals, I guess, this season now. So just I think, come on, give him the first team spot. Come on, we have now Rodrigo, Vinicius, Joselu, Brahim, 4 guys in attack. If this is not the moment to promote an academy player, I don't know.
Yeah, don't bring Mbappe, man. Just promote Arribas.
Yeah, even if you brought Mbappe, it would be
Yeah, definitely.
room
I'm
for
just
him, no?
joking.
Yeah,
I'm
but I
joking,
mean,
obviously.
yeah.
Regardless of whether Mbappe joins Madrid, I think Arribas at least deserves a few chances for the first team. If he doesn't play that much, if he doesn't play that well, you can always own him out. But if you have that option of him being in the first team, providing you with whatever he does on the pitch, because Brahim, I've made this point so many times in the last few podcasts. Brahim has not been good for the last 2 years. Ever since he got COVID, I watched so much of Milan. He hasn't been that great. He hasn't been the line breaking presence that he was that we signed from City. Arribas is not as experienced and as established as Brahim, but 100% I think Arribas deserves a shot for the first team. 100%. There's absolutely no doubt. I think if you don't bring in Brahim right now and you just play Arribas, that would be okay as well. But if you have Brahim, it's okay to have Arribas as well. I think Arribas could. I just want him to play. Like I know he can succeed. I know he can play as a right winger for the first team. I've seen him play. I've literally watched like 40 games of him just killing teams. And I know he was in a different. I'm sorry, I just need to finish this point.
Yeah.
He was in a different role, 100% agreed, but he's too talented to not even try on another position. And he's left-footed and he can play on the left. He's not like a slow player. He's really agile. He can run and he can get past opponents. Play him, please, Paris. Just promote him, man. Come on.
Yeah, I agree. It's the perfect moment because because of the number of or the lack of forwards we have now in the first team. I think it's a no-brainer. The only counter argument would be that he could play more in another team. And this point I'm going to bring up now is that I think so many of these players would get first division opportunities now. I think, well, for example, Rafa Marin, in addition to Arribas, Dotor, I guess some would also take him. I mean, shame for Ramon now that he just now came back and started playing because he showed again so much quality. I think there's a lot of players here who would go into the first division.
Yeah, definitely. And Pereira as well is pretty good.
Absolutely. So
Mario Martin could actually help so many teams, but because he's a kind of CDM that many Spanish teams kind of need. I don't know. I just get that vibe from the guy that he can be a good CDM for a mid-table La Liga team.
Yeah.
And while we're on the subject, just Castilla players. I'm not saying Obrador should go to some other club. I hope he stays for another season. I'm just saying that he needs to go with the first team on the preseason tour because I want to see him play with Vinny for at least just give me one half of Vinny and Obrador together. Just one half.
Yeah, I mean it's easy. We maybe get a little bit carried away, but I think they deserve it because they have been so good. One thing that's positive is that I'm just looking at the age of the players. So
yeah,
Arribas, Dotor, Paulo Ramon, Alvaro Martin, Luis Lopez. They will be gone for sure. They are born in 2001, and they either have already had their 22nd birthday or they will. Mm-hmm. So 22nd, by the way, that's quite a lot for Arribas. He has stayed too long. But
he's just a year younger than me. Oh, older than me.
Yeah, he's. I do hope that the club has a good deal with him because otherwise, this year he did not need this year to prove how good he is. So
he scored 21 goals, man.
Yeah, at a very high level in a lot of assists, and we said it all. But one thing that's positive is that we do have a lot of players who are 2003 and younger. Marvel, Noel Lopez, Javier Villar, Alvaro Rodriguez, Nico Paz, Vinicius Tobias, Rafael Obrador, Mario Martin, Alvaro Leiva, Edgar Puyol, Iker Bravo, Alex Jimenez. These are just some players who are either 2003 or younger. So
Everyone's younger than me. Wow, I feel old.
no. So yeah, it's not going to be like every player is going to disappear. We're going quite a few players will, but we will have a
Vinicius
good.
Tobias also definitely.
He will, and we can mention him briefly because he came on today, and I was very surprised that he was brought on. So when Obrador was injured, he came on to the right back, and Paulo Ramon went to the other flank. I was sure that Peter Federico would get in, but yeah, I thought he did a lot of. He needs to be is just such a raw player. That's the perfect description of him because you can see he has so many good abilities, but he also loses the ball in dangerous positions. And yeah, what do you think about his performance?
Yeah, you said it perfectly. He's just raw, and it was a really raw performance. He was running up and down the pitch, and he was pretty good at that. And he went past a few players. But I think he made some. He tried to backheel towards the end of the game. He tried to backheel it off of Eldente's players, and then he just fumbled it and gave it throw in instead.
I thought it was Theo Zidane, but maybe they both did.
Maybe I'm not sure which one it was, but if it was Vinicius Tobias, please don't do that again.
Well,
yeah,
but
but apart from that, I mean, it was an okay performance. Like he felt like he made his presence known. He was there. He wasn't crossing that well. His crosses were a bit off. He hasn't played in a while, so I don't give him that much shit for this. But yeah.
But he did create quite a few chances, either all the way into the final third, or just dribbling away from a few players. And this is maybe one of the criticism I have of Castilla today, that they had some problems with advancing high up the pitch, either because they were just kicked and fouled, but also because the movement was not quite there. And so I guess he helped in that case.
Yeah, definitely helped. One thing that I would like to mention before I forget. I have a question for you. Who is the player that I've shat on the most in these last few months of watching Castilla?
Who you have? I mean, Aranda is an obvious example, but you're thinking of someone else?
Yeah, someone else. I dislike him.
Let me see.
It's a really obvious answer.
Theo Zidane?
Yeah, and I was kind of impressed by him today.
Well, yeah.
Which is really shocking, but you know how you talked about players that like gave their all and they were like brave, stuff like that. I think Theo Zidane was kind of today like that. He was like he made a few really good challenges, like really good tackles in I think it was the middle of the pitch, and like stopped a lot of chances from going, towards Castilla's goal. I'm sorry, I'm really it's
no,
really,
but
yeah. Anyway, I think Theo Zidane, he created some chances, some danger. He went up the pitch as well, did some things offensively. Defensively, I think he was really good. That was the main thing I was looking at. Like he's always been the guy who would overdo things and overdo his dribble and lose the ball. But today his tackling especially really impressed me. And yeah, just a shout out to
credit where credit is due.
Yeah, 100%.
And I think we're getting close to the end here. I guess we could have gone on.
Talk about one guy.
Who?
If you're up for it, we can talk about Raul.
Yeah. What do you think?
I mean, I told you, I think defensive structure and stuff like that, I think Raul has to play a big part. And there's a lot of things that Raul has fixed for Castilla, but there's a lot of things that he hasn't fixed for Castilla that continues to bite them in the ass every single game. And it just pisses me off because it's like experience is one thing. I get it. Like you don't have experience, so you make some mistakes that you normally wouldn't. That's completely fine. But like leaving so much space and not tracking your runners, not having that structure defensively. If you're going on a low block, then you need to cover every single part where it's like important. You need to be active. You need to have that I don't know, like you need to be tracking every single person. And if you are asking your team to go into that deep block, then you need to be well versed with it. And I think Raul, as much as I liked his versatility at the start of the season, I think there are many things. Obviously, since he's a really young manager, he has a lot of things to improve on. But one of those things is fixing his freaking mistakes when it's happened all season. Why don't you ask your team to work on them? It's like, yes, the team plays a big part in what mistakes happen on the pitch because they're the players that are playing, but the manager also has some sort of responsibility when it comes to this, in my opinion. And it keeps happening, and the system itself is just, it needs to shake up a bit, man. I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, I agree about all of the things that can improve. There are so many things that this team can do even better.
Mhm.
But I just feel like, because I've seen so many years of Castilla, and one of the things that by the way, I just have to mention a thing while I'm remembering it. Eldense has not lost at home for the whole season. 14 months since the last loss. So we were so close to doing something that nobody has done for a long time. And also in the build up to the game and during the game, the commentator was saying that this is the best home team against the best away team. Castilla are actually the best away team in the whole division, and I gotta give Raul huge credit for that, because I don't think people realize how unbalanced it was previously. That we were winning so many games at the Di Stefano, but then going away was just all awful. I think in that case we have improved quite a lot. And it could have been even better. Another criticism that we can throw at Raul is that he has had 4 years now with the team, and he has, unlike other managers, he has been able to keep star players for longer than normal. He has been able to build what can I say? Just some, that they understand each other, they know each other, they've been along.
There's chemistry.
There is chemistry. But I just feel like after a season like this, I mean, they 69 points, 58 goals. They conceded 38. That's right. So I mean, defensively they can improve, and I wonder, with that system, 3 center backs, it should be possible to do better. But I just
definitely for a team that has 3 center backs and 2 fullbacks, they concede a lot of goals and they leave a lot of players on mark in the defensive third. And I mean, I'm not taking anything away from Raul. Raul has done a really good job this season, because Castilla used to never win at home, as you said. And I'm giving him full credit for that, 100%. He's done really good things, but he's also done some things that make me really iffy about his aspirations about being the first team manager. I don't think he's there yet. Maybe in the future, but I don't see him being the first choice for the manager job next year.
It's difficult to evaluate things now that so much disappointment, and I actually, for some reason, I almost feel. I'm not saying I feel positive. I don't feel good, but I just have so much positive, so many positive things to say about the team that right now it's difficult for me to criticize them, and it includes Raul, because I just think they've done so many good things, and maybe I'm being too emotional about it. Maybe I think Kian also mentioned that and for some, I just heard someone saying it from. It's not often I can hear someone else talking about Castilla on a podcast. So when that happened, he said, I think he needs to get more out of this team, of these players. And I thought, well, maybe you're right. But I still gotta say, I'm so impressed by what he's done. I like his style. The players like him. he plays a modern style. He's flexible with the systems. 3 at the back, 4 at the back. Yeah, he's gotten the best out of Arribas. I think he's got a lot of things right, but yeah, also a lot of things could improve.
Yeah, I mean, as I said, he's had a good season, 100%. But and you made a good point about Arribas, that he's gotten the best out of Arribas. It's a really good point, but I just don't see him being the first team manager. Apart from that, for Castilla, he's done a really good job. I will die on this hill. He's done a really good job for Castilla. It was they were on the brink of promotion, and I don't think you can ask for much more than that, because experience plays a huge part in these sorts of games. And if you're playing with a group of 20, 21, 22-year-olds, 20-year-olds, you won't have that experience. You're facing a team that is really, really relying on getting that promotion because it's so important for the club. It's not as important for Castilla. It's never it's obviously important for Castilla, the players, stuff like that. But for Castilla alone, if you look at it as a second team for Madrid, it's not that important for them to be in the second division. It would be really good for everyone, but it's not as important for a club that's the first team of the club that's in that same division going up. It's So yeah, Raul has done a lot of good things, but I just don't see him being ready for the first team club. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, let's see what happens. I guess it's at least 1 year away. What do you say?
It's Xabi Alonso's time.
Yeah, let's see.
I'm so excited. If he comes and if he does well, and I would be so happy.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, it's still, yeah, I don't know. Let's see, but my feelings about Raul are more positive than negative for sure. And if he stays with Castilla next season, I think I think the team should be in good hands. And I just want to say before I finish now that I look at the list of players, and I think I could build quite a decent lineup with these players. If I could also bring in like Manuel Angel, Gonzalo, and the Juvenil players who have been so great, breaking all the records. Yeah. We could let's say that Mario de Luis, he is maybe young enough as a goalkeeper to say. We can play Vinicius Tobias, Rafael Obrador, maybe Marvel can stay, and Mario Martin is still very young, Nico Paz, Salvador Rodriguez. Yeah, I think there's a lot of good players here for next season as well, at least.
Yeah, I think Palacios is going to be promoted as well. Palacios is pretty decent from what I've seen.
I think a lot of Juvenil players will be promoted. Yeah, that's for sure.
I think Manuel Angel would be really important now with Nico Paz, because Arribas definitely won't be here. And also one more thing about Raul. I think, isn't it better if he leaves now than a season later? If even for his own job, if he leaves right now, he might have a few options. And then if he stays for another season, you're looking at 5 or 4. How many seasons with Castilla?
So next season will be his 5th season.
Yeah, so 5 full seasons with Castilla, or 4.5, whatever. That's a lot for someone who, for an academy team. That's a lot. And
yeah, it is a lot, but yeah.
I think he's just like Raul. If he stays for another season, I think he's just. I'm not saying teams won't be interested in him, but I think there will be some decrease in their interest of a manager that's stayed with the same team, the same academy team for 5 years.
But why though? Because I mean, he will just let's compare Raul now to Raul 1 year from now. He will just be the same guy with 1 more year of experience, no?
Yeah, but why overstay your welcome? I think that's the phrase.
But don't you also think that Alonso, for example, by leaving the club, I think you decrease your chances of getting the first team job. I think Raul walking around at Valdebebas is much more likely to get a job than if he goes to I know that they got a new manager and everything, but like let's say he goes to Getafe, and he like gets 15th place or something, or even if he is 10th place, 11th, he improves the team. I think he's got better chances of getting the first team job as a Castilla coach than almost in any other club, unless he goes to a really big club. And yeah,
that's what I'm saying. I'm not that, like, I'm not a Raul hater. I'm just gonna say that for sure. I like Raul. I just haven't. I don't know, man. I don't think he's gonna get the first team job anyway. That's what I mean. If Ancelotti gets sacked midway through the season,
I think it's possible. I think it's actually, I would say he's definitely top 3. Don't you think?
It depends on next season though, because there's a lot of managers that will leave their clubs, and Madrid might be interested in them. And one more manager puts Raul one spot further down the list, I think, because I don't know, man. I mean, if you look at if Nagelsmann, for example, if he's still not employed, it's an option. I mean, look, he's say whatever you want. Nagelsmann is a really good tactician, and he's a really good manager, and he's more
typical manager who doesn't deal with the pressure at Madrid. I feel, but
he did quite well with like he got unfairly sacked, I think, by Bayern. And he didn't have a striker, and he still managed to score. Like he manages.
Yeah, I mean, he's done a lot of good things, but I think this is a whole different discussion. But this is so being a Real Madrid manager is very different from being a manager at any other club.
I definitely agree. Yeah, but I'm just saying that Nagelsmann on paper is because we haven't seen Raul be a top level manager anywhere.
Yeah, I know, but that's the same I said about Zidane. I was so critical of Zidane getting the first team job, and look what happened. I think Xavi. There's a lot of Arteta, a lot of examples of who have proven me wrong about that back then. I was so critical, but I think they have shown that it's not just about getting in the biggest name, and even Pochettino now is his reputation has been damaged from just you know what I mean. But let's see. I think it's valid points, and I do think 5 years is, I don't know why it would stay so long. I guess the only reason is he's looking for the first team job. I think that's the only reason.
Yeah, probably.
I feel like I need. First of all, I want to thank you for the conversation. I know that it's super late where you are, and this was in one way the podcast that I was like was the opposite of looking forward to. I was like dreading it. I honestly didn't. In one way, I did not want to record, but in the other way, on the other hand, it was the most necessary podcast in a while, because it was great to just get it all out and not go to bed with all of these feelings.
Yeah, therapy session.
Yeah, it was actually. So I just want to, for my sake at least, I don't know what others need, but I just want to leave on a high note. I just want to sum up the positives from this night. There's not many, I guess, but next season, we will see a lot of the same players. They will be 1 year older, and they will be better, more prepared. We will have a lot of great talents coming up from Juvenil A, the record-breaking Juvenil A, with Arbeloa, Manuel Angel, and the others who we mentioned. It's going to be great to watch them. We're going to win a lot of matches next season as well. We're hopefully going to be a top side competing for promotion for another year instead of fighting against relegation. I remember how that was when Castilla was in the Segunda División. It was quite rough. It was brutal to, you talked about how you never experienced before as Real Madrid fan, playoffs and everything. But one thing that you definitely then have not experienced is a relegation fight, which is not pleasant, I will tell you that. So yeah, and also we can maybe imagine that this definitely closes the door for Arribas to play for Castilla one more year. Maybe they would have tricked him into staying if they got promoted, and maybe that would have just made a worse print on his career. Raul seems to be staying, so we know that we're going to have, even though, whether he's good enough for the first team is another discussion, but he's definitely good enough for Castilla, and we're pretty sure that we're going to get another good season if he's the coach. So I think there are a lot of good things to look forward to. Anything that I haven't forgotten about?
Raul was wearing shorts again.
Raul's wearing shorts again, yes. That's also important points. Yeah, I just felt like I wanted to leave on a high note. So
yeah,
thank you, Ridiam, for covering Castilla with me this season. And yeah, as you said, so many good moments. And thanks to everyone who's been listening all along. This is not the end, by the way. We're going to continue through the summer, and we have a couple of ideas. We want, for example, to have a Patreon live call, another one, where we can just take questions in general. We're looking actually to do it this midweek, possibly.
Yeah.
We also must do an episode, which we did 2 or 3 years ago, ranking the players of the Castilla squad and looking at, I actually kind of started it a little bit already. Which Castilla player is more likely to succeed in the future? I guess number 1 is sealed, but the other ones, it's going to be quite interesting. So we got a few things coming up. Yeah.
Preseason for Castilla as well. I mean,
preseason.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Castilla
hopefully we'll get some rest. I mean, yeah, it's been a long season for them, and I guess the teams going into the playoffs get a shorter preseason or shorter rest. So
yeah, I mean, they did take a month out of their preseason break because the season actually ended 4 weeks ago.
This is actually a great point. I haven't thought about that until now. So, the next, the preseason can be coming sooner than we think, actually. So. Yeah. This is not.
We're still going to be here, though. Yeah.
Yeah. This is not the end of. We're not going to take a break. We're still going to continue. So again, thanks to everyone who's listening and giving us good feedback, and we appreciate it a lot, and gives us a lot of we want to continue because of this motivation. Exactly. Yeah.
Finish your sentences.
Okay. Let's finish here. Thanks for the conversation, Ridiam.
Thank you for having me, and thank you for for being such a great host this entire season.
Thank you.
It's tough, man. It's tough. I've hosted once and twice. It's really tough. I'm going to do more of it though next season for sure. I'm going to ask you beforehand. You know what? Let me host this time.
No, it's been fine. It's I've really enjoyed it. So thanks again, and until next time then, which is not going to be too long. Ala Madrid.
Ala Madrid.
All right, thanks for listening, guys. And before we sign off here, we wanted to give a quick shout out to our patrons over on patreon.com/managingmadrid. It's been an absolute honor getting to know you guys and seeing this Real Madrid family grow, and you guys are a big part of it, and we wanted to thank you. And we also wanted to give a shout out to our $10 plus patrons specifically, because if you pledge $10 or more, not only do you get access to our entire back catalog, plus guaranteed responses to all of your questions, but you also get a specific shout out on the podcast. So shout out to these $10 plus patrons as follows: Brandon Alvarez, Willie Reed, Will Sousa, Wei Paring, Wamik Jamal, Tobias Royal Botcher, Tahmid Kalam, Sushank Damala, Sujai Wani, Sumanchu Singh, Sheikh Hatiri, Sergio Arispe, Santos Solorzano, Samuli Justin, Samer Z, Sai Mohan, Sasi Kumar, Rodrigo Balmaceda, Rishi D, Phoenix, Peter Powell, Paulo Fierro, Patrick Diafari, Oscar Barrera, Omar Barawani, Nico Laxo, Nicholas Moeller, Nick Ribeiro, Nelson Masariego, Naveen Babu, Ramesh Babu, Mowgli, MJ Diego, Michael Zinberg, Marin Myrtle, Matthew Atkins, Martin Ridman, Magnus Lext, Logan Stahl, Leon Stavronakis, Kunal Tilakar, Crystal Glass, Kevin Rivera, Jose Osorio, John Fernandez, Jeff Soa, Jason Fitz, Jacob P., Ian Marley, Howard Moore, Graham Gerard, Gary Kohut, Frederick Rantakiro, Frederick Sundros, S.A. Davisito, Ernesto Gutierrez Vargas, Eloy Enriquez, Edward Sossman, Daniel Williams, Connor McMorrow, Christian Toff, Krishna Costa, Brendan Powers, Brandon Stevens, Arnab Mukherjee, Armand Gashi, Armando L., Anthony Tharp, Anirudh Singh, Andres Silvestre, Ananya Kumar, Alex Steiberg, Azaz Hussein, Adrian Rios, Adar Zalikovic, Adam Dorsey, Bella Chow, Varun, Ramtin Mahrur, Fabian Moreno, and Daniel Smith. You guys rock. Thank you so much. And Hala Marid.